Delivering humanitarian aid has proven to be even more difficult in the global context, with the increase of inequalities, the increase of natural disaster, the race against hunger, the race to protect the environment, knowing that the climate change is impacting much more the most vulnerable, and also the complexity of the crises and the conflicts due partly to digital technologies and new technologies. At the same time, those same technologies has proven to be key enablers for humanitarians to deliver better, quicker, with more impact towards the targeted population, while addressing the root causes of such issues. From cash-based intervention, who attracted $80 million in 2020 alone, early warning mechanism, the use of satellite imagery to map out the situation and extract accurate information to make more informed decisions, and also more and more AI systems. For example, chatbots to provide assistance remotely to refugees, virtual reality for educational purposes, and more predictive analytics to anticipate the next crisis, to anticipate the next natural disaster as much as possible and allocate resources accordingly. In 2020, for the first time ever, the Central Emergency Response Fund allocated millions to fight against flooding and famine in Bangladesh and Somalia using such systems. But for humanitarians, we also know that we have to be extra careful. We're also all aware that there are ethical challenges coming with those technologies. And for us, possibly, the poison is in the cure. There is a common consensus on the ethical challenges and threat of AI systems, from data protection, data safety, data sovereignty, also the importance of having the consent of the population, how to measure the level of sensitivity of information, knowing that that level can change rapidly in a crisis context. For example, giving the location of a school can rapidly turn as a risk for the population to be targeted, especially with autonomous weapons. We also now are facing a challenge that maybe is calling for us humanitarians to have a general pledge asking for all stakeholders involved directly or indirectly in a humanitarian setting to uphold the humanitarian values. Not only to have a human rights-based approach as it has been mainstream in the UN system, but also in other head agencies, but also humanitarian values, especially independence, impartiality, neutrality, and the do no harm. Maybe this call for a general pledge around humanitarian values also involved to have a digital convention for preserving us and mitigating the risk of new technologies. Let me give another example. When it comes to the humanitarian principles and humanitarian values, independence and impartiality, how can we be sure that we're going to be independent and impartial when all the predictive analytics system is directing our attention or resources toward a situation, a conflict, when we know that the needs are somewhere else? Are we going to be able to justify that the need is somewhere else and therefore that we need to allocate other resources when the AI system is directing us in another direction? Another example, we know there is more and more recycling of data. What is a threshold above which we can't guarantee to the most vulnerable that their data are not going to be used against them? Should we put a threshold? Should we guarantee in the procurement, but also in the new partnership that we are signing with our partners and our counterparts, that they will abide by the do no harm principle, but also by humanitarian values? All those questions are calling us not only to anticipate, mitigate, understand the risk of artificial intelligence, but really for us as a humanitarian community to stand up again and to ask for humanitarian values and humanitarian principles to be mainstream, and for everyone who is engaged to sign those principles and abide by those principles, those who act directly or indirectly. Join me.